I'm not totally ready yet. You know what? I have an idea.
This might be a good time to remind you to always check that your audio is recording. Yeah. Silent intro aside, in today's video, I want to take you behind the camera to look at the setup for these videos I'm doing. This setup is based on a 3-point lighting system, but what I really want you to see is how flexible this method can be.
So the key to this whole thing starts with utilizing my space well. I've got here my microphone, and then I've got some arms that I'm going to use, as well as these here. These are my super clamps that I'm going to use for sticking lights and whatever I need to in any position that I can, and attaching them to whatever space I have available that will get a good grip on them. Now, I've actually got a few options for putting my lights together here. I usually use an Aputure 120D Mark II as my key light. It's the strongest light that I have. It's got low heat emission on it, and it can be bright and controllable, and I can stick a softbox on the front of it and get a really nice looking key light. It's also just kind of the standard for this work. On top of that, I also have a couple of these. The Yongnuo YN360. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but these are actually powered just by kind of a typical Sony NPF battery. These are full RGB, and they are adjustable by light, LED lights. They also have a 1/4-20 thread on the bottom of there, which means that if I take one of these and I add one of my arms to it right here, and then I stick that on a super clamp like this, then what I get out of it is a kicker light and a fill light that I can put basically anywhere. You'll see I have a couple of these mounted throughout the room that I have options for using for putting together a 3-point light kit, basically. I use these when I'm here at the computer if I need like a nice overhead soft look to it, instead of trying to set up my 120D over in the corner where I don't have space for it. Basically, I can stick one of these over top of me, and it'll give me a nice little light. Now, this is going to be set up for blue, but I can stick it on a 3200 setting, or I can go to 5600 and just get a nice little kind of overhead office looking light. And I think it just creates a nice soft effect right in this area where I need it most. I can control it for darkening the back or just hitting the front of my face. Just a lot of flexibility in these things. So that's mostly what you're going to find, in addition to one of these. This is the Aputure MC. It's a tiny, nice multicolored light. Again, it's full RGB, controllable on the phone, and it's got by light 3200 to 6500 Kelvin, I think it is, on it. Dimmable. I mean, these are incredible with a softbox on the front of it. I'm going to wind up doing some breakdowns of this equipment. I'll talk about some of the individual pieces in the future video, so I'll link those once they are available and up there. And the last piece that you might have some interest in seeing before we start doing the build outs here is going to be the camera. So I'm shooting right now on the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 6K. I've got the Small HD 5-inch touchscreen monitor up top. You'll see I've got some rigging for this. This is actually configured for a nice handheld option for when I'm out shooting B-roll for commercials or some kind of branded content. Just gives me a nice, handheld effect. I can stick it on any rigging that I need to and go with it. I'll do some breakdowns of the individual pieces that are on here, but for now I just wanted you to see what I'm using and how I'm achieving some of this look that I've got going. While I'm shooting on the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema camera, here I'm actually on right now the Sony a7 III. So it's a nice setup. It gives me some flexibility in post. I'm most of the time not using any of the RAW or 6K function. It's just ProRes 4K images so that I can get to it, use it, not have to do a lot with it. I mostly get all of my lighting set up how I want it to be, and all I have to do is fill in a little bit of contrast and maybe a little bit of color corrections for some of the green issues or something that might be involved there. So let's get going on the setup. All right, so we're back over here, and what I'm gonna do first is start to get all of my C-stands set up and ready to go, because those are the largest pieces that have to sit in place where I need them to be, and I can work around them from there. So the first one is actually gonna be, I'm just gonna move this first, because I wanna go with my boom pole first. This is gonna be a boom set up to come out to where I have marked over here, and I'll have my microphone coming straight in over top, just out of frame, so that it's nice and crisp, but also, you know, not viewable. So I've got here the Sennheiser MKE 600. That's what I'm gonna use for my boom mic overhead. And I'm just gonna put it on my shock mount so that it is nice and quiet, and make sure that I have the right threading. These boom poles here have options for 3/8 and 1/4 20, super flexible, which is nice in case I, you know, have one or the other to like attach to it, which is exactly what I'm gonna do right here. Again, most of the time these things have to be done in a really tight environment. It makes it, you know, a challenge. How do you get everything in that you need, show what you want to show, and eliminate what you don't want? Part of it is making sure that you can get stuff up and out of the way. I notice a lot of times whenever I'm on sets, that's kind of the same thing. And I don't have a lot of experience on you know, very large film sets or anything. So as far as, you know, typical rigging goes, I'm still fairly new to some of it, learning a lot myself. But what I find is that if you can get stands off the floor and get lighting rigged up instead, a lot of times you'll be set up for flexibility in shooting, basically. So that's kind of part of what I've applied into doing this. I don't have the option of rigging anything into my ceiling, and it's low anyways, so it's not really going to do me any favors. But I can at least get it just off frame. I don't have to turn the camera, hardly ever. And I can get exactly what I need in a professional environment without giving away any of the behind the scenes stuff, unless, like this, I really want to. Okay, so it's not pretty, but I have this set up. It's out of frame just now. I can make some adjustments if I need to find out where exactly it needs to be based on my mark on the ground and where it's pointed at my face. Give it a little bit of an adjustment, and I actually want to back it down just a little bit to find out where it falls into frame. Right about there, so I'm gonna come up a little bit. That way I can be as close as possible to my face without peeking it. That should be good. All right, so let's move on to the next one. This is gonna be our key light. So I've got the 120D here. I'm gonna get this set up first. And I've got their Mini Dome 2, which I'm gonna set up on the front of this. It's gonna give me flexibility of space, being nice and compact, but it's gonna have control over some softness in my light, and also I've got that like honeycomb that I can put on the front of it and control where that light is spilling to. So let's get this set up over here. I'm gonna move things so you can see a little bit better what's going on and talk about how to set up this first key light. All right, so I'm getting set up on the boom here so that I can actually bring it up and arm it out just a little bit over top of me. The goal here is to get a little bit of what's known as the Rembrandt lighting. It, one, creates this nice little pocket of light right in the corner with deep shadows, so it creates depth across the face. And it just makes for something that's a bit more attractive to look at when you've got something like a talking headpiece, for instance. I definitely recommend taking a look at more information about the Rembrandt lighting. It's a very well-known, very popular setup, and I think it just makes for a really like familiar look for you know, what was originally done in portraits and now can be taken into these talking head and interview type situations if you want to create a little bit of drama and some flattering shadows that just help to, again, like give visual depth in somebody when that's the entire focus, is like first and foremost the person. Let's get now the Mini Dome up here. This is a nice little setup. Really simple, easiest softbox I've ever put together. And it starts with the main structure here. The nice part about it is that it's fully collapsible without taking these little arms off. All you do is you take, and it's easier to do on the ground, but I'm gonna do it here for now. These little pieces here lock into place, just like that. And you just all the way across, make sure you're not Velcroed together in any awkward spots. all the way across. Get these arms nice and tight so that you get this fully extended. And you got a fully put together softbox. And then you just Velcro these pieces together, and I've got some diffusion that we'll put on the front and a little honeycomb that'll help to, again, just cut some of the spill light that comes on the outside of it, because what I want to do is make sure I narrow it down to my face and not spill too much of that light over into my background, because I want to keep that dark enough to see the kicker that I'm going to put in there, the little backlight, little teal that I put into it, and not keep the attention on the background, but make sure that all the focus comes right up to where I'm speaking in the front. Set to go. Then this goes right on the Bowens mount on the front here. Locks in like that. Followed by some diffusion. And finally, I'm going to add this grid, or honeycombs, I know it's sometimes referred to, right onto the front. Again, what this does is help to kill some of that like extra spill that goes on. I'll show you here in a second. These individual little like gridded pieces, or again, kind of why it's called a honeycomb, because it looks like a honeycomb. These here, right? So these actually control individual pockets of light, and it keeps it from, it keeps it from going too wide, like too much further out than it needs to be, basically. All right. So let me show you the final setup on this. I'm going to move things around just to see how this kind of arms out and what it's going to look like when it's hitting me standing on my mark in the center here. All right, so I'm going to actually get this up first a little bit here. And then I want to, like I said, arm this out, boom it up just a hair, and probably walk it back a little bit too. I want to get right about at what would be considered maybe a, like a 10 o'clock to my face roughly. If I'm standing here looking at my camera right here, then I want to make sure that, around 10, 11 o'clock is where I'm going to be putting that, so that I create most of the light coming from this direction onto my face and allow for some shadows to cross this side of it. Now it's going to be pretty harsh when you first see it, and I've got my window open at the moment. I'll have to close that to show you what that looks like. Some pretty deep shadows across my face, which will then fill in later over on this side with a little bit of like just a bouncing fill light that'll help to create a little bit of bounce throughout the face and not make it too dramatic looking. You can leave it if you want. One light works just fine a lot of times. There's plenty of interviews that I've done with just one light before. But for now, I really want to make sure I have some clarity across me, and I don't need to communicate too much drama in the moment, because that's not what I'm going for here. So I'm going to walk this back a little, and then I'm just going to check it. I'm going to see what it looks like on me. Maybe I don't need to boom it so much or come up a little bit. All right, I think that's pretty good. Let's try it, see what it looks like. You're seeing way more than what my light or my camera over here would see for the main composition. It's also kind of bright at the moment, so I'm gonna dial that down a little bit. These have this nice control panel here, which is also controllable through a remote. I don't have a battery for it at the moment, so I'm not using it, but I'm gonna kick that down a little bit. It's at about 50%, so let's go to 35. Let's cut that window and let's see how it looks. All right, so far I'd say it's looking pretty good, but as we can see on the main camera here, it's kind of a little bit bright at the moment. So let's see what we can do to make some adjustments to that. We could bring that light down just a little bit. Let's go down to 25% and see how we look. Now that's nice. It's creating some shadow across my face. I've got a little bit of that Rembrandt pocket of light coming in right here. I've got a little bit of a fill coming in from my window here. There we go. All right, so we cut that out entirely. Now you can see real easily this little pocket here. So again, it's just kind of off to, it's right about 10 o'clock on me, but I brought it up, I brought it down a little bit, and as you can see in the background, we're not really creating any spill across that. So off and on. Just a little bit in this corner here, which I'm fine with for the moment. What I want to do is get this set up, and then I'm going to go ahead and get my kicker back here so we can see some of that light and how it's going to affect the background over here, and see some of that teal across this side. And I'm also going to be leaving the monitors up, as you can see, for some practicals in the background. I'm going to switch a couple of things up just because I like to have those monitors positioned a certain way, and I like to have something very specific on them. Let's get that kicker up. So if you remember, I am actually going to use one of these lights here going into the RGB setting to create that blue kicker that I want to see up at the top here. I've got the super clamp attached to it, which means that I can attach this up to the top of my bookshelf here that you can kind of see. Once this gets up on the bookshelf, then I can start to make some adjustments. It gets nice and secure up here. It's really very useful. I love it. These things are incredible. I can stick them almost anywhere. In fact, I use them on the C-stand as well, just to arm onto the C-stand. All right, so this usually sits, up here somewhere. I'm going to check for my frame on the main camera to make sure that I'm not getting into the frame on it. If I have to, what I'll do is move it over just a little bit, kind of like right at the edge of my bookshelf, and just check for it. And I want to get as close to me as possible as well. Now it's starting to get a little bit of that light spill onto the background here, which I like to see. That might be exactly what I'm looking for. So let's get this off, let's get this light on again, and let's see how it looks. All right, so now we've got our key light here. We've got the kicker in the back, creating these nice outlines on the side of me. You can see it in this frame here, exactly how it's looking. I'm really just pointing it at me, and then I'm letting the rest of it kind of fill the room wherever necessary, and it will actually come in and help to shape some of this background over here. And it's doing quite a bit for, one little light. It's, yeah, good look so far. I like it. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and get the fill light in right over here. So for this, I'm going to do kind of the same thing here. I've got another one of these, which I need to steal a battery for, and I'm going to get the arm on it and get it attached to my super clamp here. Okay, so let's actually get a peek on what I'm doing here. So you see I've got this post sitting right here. What I've noticed in this room is that I don't want to put a direct, fill light in on me on this side. I actually want to bounce light around the room, and that helps to create just a little bit of fill for my face, but not give anything harsh or direct, and it doesn't take away from the shadows that I'm putting on that side of my face for this lighting effect. Because I do still want to keep it, a little bit on the dramatic side and just something that looks pretty because it's familiar. When we talk about Rembrandt lighting, we're talking about replicating an effect from the artist Rembrandt and how he used to do his portraits. So it's something that has been found flattering for a long time and has been used over and over again for all kinds of lighting setups, even in, intimate scenes in films and stuff that you likely have seen before and are familiar with. So let's get this positioned and on. So we're gonna bring it all the way up, right about there. And we'll see how this turns out. And there. So here we have the basic lighting setup that I use for these talking head pieces that I do inside my little studio here. Just a quick review. I've got the key light that is the 120D Mark II sitting just overhead right here with the honeycomb on it that helps to, and a little bit of diffusion, that helps to direct the light and create soft light on my face and create nice shadows that roll across the side of my face. I've also got a kicker light back here that is going to help create this nice little separation piece. It's going to give me some blue in the background over here. And then I've got the piece that you can't really see right up here that is actually my fill light. Now I'm going to make a small adjustment just because I feel like it's doing a little too much at the moment. And that is kind of part of the process. I don't track exactly what the setup is every time. I know relatively where everything goes, but I know that I've got it in the right position, and I know roughly how I want to make it look. Either way, I feel like this is, remarkably useful, whether you are talking about, again, an interview, if you're doing a documentary, or if you're doing a piece for, a corporate client, something like that, for helping to create some depth and shadows to help your stuff to stand out just a little bit from kind of everything else done, which is typically going to be just a clear, bright lighting. It depends on who it is, but talk with your clients and make a plan with them, get them some mood boards that help them to understand exactly what it is that you're thinking and communicate very directly what it is that you're looking to do on that. But it also works for talking head pieces if you want to do something, like this, where you're trying to inform and communicate. Last thing I'm going to do before I'm done here is switch these monitors up so that I don't have dark and then light, because you can see it kind of is a distraction right over my shoulder here. That's why I like to put this one here, our logo, up behind me, and then create, whether it's something I'm doing in editing on this side, or just give it a, some kind of random background on that piece there. But either way, I think you kind of see what we're going for. I'm going to make some small tweaks, and we're going to get to the main piece here. Videos like this one made up a major part of my lighting education when I was first getting started. The nice thing is, even if some of the equipment feels a little bit out of your abilities, you can still take away the major principles and come out, I think, just as strong in the end. That is too important to miss. Good lighting isn't about having the perfect equipment. Yes, I know that having quality lights and supporting tools and flags and bounces and muslin and cookies and all of that is a part of the craft. But if you don't get the principles first, it's not going to matter how big your grip truck is. What I love about the setup that we're doing here is that it's so versatile and the parts can be used for any of the work that you're going to do as a videographer. If you need clean corporate talking head lighting, get your 3-point lighting set up, keep the colors even, and kick up the background lights. If you're setting up for a moody interview, try dropping the fill and the rim lights to get those deep shadows. If you're aiming for that cinematic lighting, try cutting off the rim light and warming up your fill, or add some tungsten practicals and balance your key for daylight. It's a versatile setup that can be used over and over and over again. What's your favorite lighting technique or trick? Tell me about it in the comments. Is there a technique or maybe a setup that you aren't sure how to do or want to know more about? Put that in the comments and I'll try to put a video together on it. I love talking about this stuff and I could go on forever. Please don't. Instead, how about giving this video a like? That was subtle. I know, I'm enjoying making these. If you're enjoying watching them, go ahead and subscribe and hit the notifications bell to get all of the newest news when it comes out. That's it for now. I mean, I guess I should put it all away now. Feels like I just got it set up. So close. Here we go.